The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, Democrats fighting Trump tooth and nail over Iran. We're talking about that. We're talking about Swalwell and so much more. First, the ex-CIA director, John Brennan, of course, he was the guy who was pushing the Russia hoax for so long. Well, now he is saying that he believes the 25th Amendment was written with President Trump in mind. He also knows that he's being investigated for potentially lying before Congress. So I sort of think he's trying to up the ante against Trump to maybe say, oh, look, I'm a victim of persecution. But he is definitely blasting President Trump, talking about the 25th Amendment. And listen to Pramila Jayapal. She is the Democrat from Washington State. Listen to what she says about the 25th Amendment, especially if the Democrats take the House. You got to hear this one.
Do you support using the 25th Amendment? Obviously, J.D. Vance is not the guy to do it. This cabinet is not going to do it. But your colleague, Ro Khanna, who I spoke to earlier this week, was talking about the need for a moral position and moral conviction in taking that position as opposed to just realistically whether or not it would happen.
Oh, absolutely. I said that a week ago, that we should invoke the 25th Amendment. As you point out, that is something that, unfortunately, by the process we have, and there was actually a bill that was introduced, I think it was last session, by Jamie Raskin to change that process, by the way, should we ever get control of the House back. But right now, invoking the 25th Amendment requires the vice president and then requires him to get a majority of the cabinet. And so I have taken the position that we need to do whatever we can to get him out, impeach him, invoke the 25th Amendment, push for him to resign, whatever it is.
From someone who never thought about the 25th Amendment against Joe Biden. Never, even though you could certainly say he was a little bit mentally incapacitated. Well, they're saying this over President Trump. And this is over his fight with Iran, saying that anybody who would be pushing this war with Iran, with, I guess, nice, sweet, wonderful Iran, clearly has a screw loose. Listen to President Trump, and he is crystal clear on what the red line is. The red line is they cannot get a nuclear weapon because he says they will use it. Listen to President Trump. This is him today at the White House.
And this is a key point, Mr. President. For those people out there who have not been following it as closely, can you explain to those people why it was critical for the United States to go into Iran? Can you articulate what was behind that move that was so important for the U.S. to go into Iran?
Yeah, so easy. The easiest question you've asked me so far. They can't have nuclear weapons. They have nuclear. They want to enrich what they have. They want to enrich more. As you know, we knocked out with the B-2 bombers. Had we not knocked that out, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month after we knocked out. In other words, had the B-2s, those beautiful B-2 bombers, totally obliterated their 3 sites. They have 3 sites. And they are now deep in the earth with, tons of rock. Now, that material should be gotten, but we have cameras on it. We have satellites with Space Force. That was one of my beauties, Space Force. So important. But we're watching those. We're watching every single aspect of that area. They can't move without us knowing exactly what's going on. But it's deep down, and it takes a long time to get it out. It's an amazing attack. Had we not done that, they would have had, within 1 month from that date, they would have had a nuclear weapon.
Right.
If they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it on Israel and the Middle East. Look, they went after 5 countries that were sort of neutral, I guess. I don't know how friendly they were, but they weren't in the line of attack. They dropped on UAE probably 1,800 missiles. They dropped on Saudi Arabia a lot, and they dropped on Qatar a lot. They dropped on Bahrain. They went crazy. And everyone was surprised. Actually, it was good for us because they all joined us immediately, at some point. They're either going to be petrified or they're going to join. They all joined, and they've been very helpful. All of these countries have been great, and Kuwait.
And this is the key point that I was getting to, and the reason that you feel they cannot have a nuclear weapon, because they will use it. And that's what I wanted you to explain to the audience.
Yeah, I think they would use it. And they'd start with Israel, and one weapon would, do damage like nobody's ever seen. Wipe it out, conceivably, big one.
Now,
not wipe it out. They don't need more than one. And then they go after the Middle East, and then they'd eventually come here.
And then they would eventually come here. If that's not chilling enough, and yet Democrats say they need the 25th Amendment, that he's gone crazy, that he's actually thinking of wiping out the world sponsor of terrorism. And then, of course, he went further today. He said, we're going to do a blockade. We're not going to let Iran do a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. We can do a blockade, and we're going to block Iranian vessels. We're not going to let them do economic blackmail. And here's how President Trump described that.
Tell us what you're trying to accomplish with this blockade,
all in,
sir.
All out. Yep. It's called all in and all out. There'll be a time when we'll have them all come in and all come out, but it won't be a percentage. It won't be a friend of yours, like a country that's your ally or a country that's your friend. It's all or nothing. And that'll be, that won't be in too long a distance. No, we're just bringing the ships up. We got a lot of ships, so we're bringing them up. We think that numerous countries are going to be helping us with this also, but we're putting on a complete blockade. We're not going to let Iran make money on selling oil to people that they like and not people that they don't like or whatever it is. It's going to be all or none, and that's the way it is. And it'll be, you saw what we did with Venezuela. It'll be something very similar to that, but at a higher level.
And they have started it. The blockade's been in effect for 13 hours now, and so far pretty smooth. And in fact, 2 vessels that were bound for Iran suddenly turned around pretty quickly when they realized the blockade was in place and they weren't going to get through. Cripple them economically, make them come to the table as opposed to sending pallets of cash in the middle of the night like they were doing, like Obama was doing. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Reggie in Texas, line 5. Go ahead, Reg, your thoughts tonight.
Well, first of all, Ms. Rita, I would feel bad if I didn't mention the Democratic Party real quick, talking about the 25th Amendment. This is a party that not only didn't recognize the condition that we all saw in the White House, but they refused to vote for the first time ever on someone who did get impeached, Mayorkas, who let, tens of millions of people in. They didn't even have a vote on his impeachment. So far be it for them to cry about how Trump should be removed.
Great points. By the way, very good points, because Mayorkas, remember, you're right, it died in the Senate. They wouldn't even go for a vote there. And then it was like, forget it. And they stalled, and then they filibustered, and they wouldn't even allow a vote because they knew the answer would be, see ya.
Right. Anyway, I called because last week, I don't know if you remember, I had mentioned something about blockading their blockade. And I think now that President Trump has gone ahead and enforced that blockade, or at least trying to enforce it, I think when you get a party that you're trying to negotiate with, and they're not honest, they're not an honest player, you've not realized that the only thing they're trying to do is stall, right, and kill time.
Yep.
You don't need to negotiate with them anymore. Their chips, the big card they were holding was the blockade, blocking the strait. Now that you've played their hand and you've seen that it's a bluff because they haven't done anything, and let them go ahead. There's going to come a point in time where the rubber is going to meet the road. But now you had President or Vice President Vance Saturday night or Sunday when the negotiations ended. He stepped away and said, "We gave them our last best offer." Okay, at some point that has to be your case. You cannot say to them now, well, we're going to negotiate. That was our offer. Nothing's changed. We can get from you militarily without doing anything, getting any concessions from you. We can get what we want. So now I think there comes a point now. There's no more talking. I have a grandson, had a grandson on Saturday, my first one. I want him and every other young child in the world to have a safe world. And them with the threat of them having a nuclear weapon in 10, 15, 20 years, we know, Miss Rita, it's not the people, it's the regime. If you don't replace these theocratic, apocalyptic cycles, we're going to run into the same problem. This is the moment. The moment of truth has come. They need to be eliminated. That's no more talking.
Yeah, by the way, I agree. And first of all, congrats on your grandson. That's beautiful, Reggie. And I agree with you, what you're saying, that they do need to go all the way, because this is not like Venezuela, where it seems like Delcy Rodriguez was willing to acquiesce and they could keep an eye on her because it was close by, and and able to see if she's delivering on what she said she was going to do. And they clearly sent a message to her, cooperate or else. These people, like you just said, are fanatics. And I don't buy that the people that are there now, maybe they wear a nicer suit than the IRGC guys and the Revolutionary Guard guys do, or the mullah does, but they're still fanatics. There is no doubt they are still absolutely fanatics. And so I 100% agree with you that this regime needs to be wiped out. The phase needs to happen where the good people of Iran can rise up and they're armed and able to do so. And then only then, until they can somewhat be in there, will it be a fair turnover of this country. I agree. You can't, I don't feel comfortable leaving it in the hands of these individuals. I don't trust them. And clearly they haven't done anything, I think, at this point to show any sense of trust. Obviously, President Trump is trying every which way. And I applaud that, Reggie. I do. I applaud, because the last thing anybody wants is military activity. And if you can get them to the table by some means and some way, why would you not want to try that? But I agree. So far, they have done nothing to me that says that they're willing to acquiesce in any form. I mean, they already have said that they're not. Apparently, I guess in the discussions, they were saying, oh, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that. But they weren't going to do anything in terms of the nuclear weapons. Well, they know that that's the big thing. I mean, they're just playing games, don't you think, Reggie? And I think, look, Trump knows that, too. I mean, he's not naive to this. He's just trying. And maybe right now, look, what he did was very gutsy in the last few hours by doing this blockade. Who knows if maybe Carg Island is next? That's where a huge amount of their exports come from. Maybe that's the next step. Maybe he's going to squeeze them in a whole bunch of different economic opportunities. I think he's like, okay, let's try this. And if it doesn't, we'll do this one in addition to. Let's squeeze them until it bleeds. But let's see where it goes. The problem is these people are so fanatical, Reggie. So it's like you've got to even push even harder than the average. I think any other regime would have already acquiesced, but these people are fanatics. And do you believe there's any form that they will agree to the terms, or do you think it's just it's going to just take a military takeover and a military pounding? And how do you do that, Reggie? That's the other thing. How do you create the conditions for the people on the ground there to be able to rise up and take over? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I don't think they're ever going to acquiesce to anything. And if you look at everything the way it's laid out, even the ceasefire they didn't live up to. They agreed to clear the Strait of Hormuz. They didn't. So that right there was a violation of the ceasefire conditions. So right then and there should have been some action taken. It's easier said by me. I'm not in that seat. But I think what you're going to have to do, me personally, again, as a layman, the minute I got back from those negotiations and they said no, my very first course of action would have been killing those 8 people, whoever were there to negotiate. I would keep going down the list. I would go, okay, that was your answer? This was my answer to that. Now, do you still want to keep going down this road? Because we got enough bombs to take care of the rest of you. And I think that's what needs to. They don't respect anything. They're not going to follow any. Miss Rita, even if they make a deal, we know, you and I both know, that the minute the Armada leaves and we start up with the inspectors and all that, we're going to get the runaround. Oh, no one's getting in. And then they're going to start up with their bellicose statements. Oh, we're no one's going to tell us what to do. We know the road they're going to take. There's a saying in Texas. We can take you on the saddle or across the saddle. They're going to come across the saddle. The nice time's over. It's over.
I agree. I don't think there is acting any nice with them. I agree, because I just think we're sort of delaying the inevitable. But I also appreciate that President Trump keeps trying, because then at least he can't be accused of not trying to negotiate. He really is a peace through strength guy. And we're seeing that over and over again. And he's not going to want to be taken advantage of either, Reggie. So he knows what you and I are all sharing too as well. 1-800-848-9222 will continue after the break here on the Rita Cosby Show. As again, big news about the Strait of Hormuz. Eric Swalwell also resigning now from Congress, not just the governor's race, resigning from Congress. Where were the Democrats all along? Apparently this was like the worst kept secret in California. But guess what? Now when he's expendable, it's like, see ya. We'll move on. Sounds like the way they handled Joe Biden. We'll talk about that when we come back.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
Well, now that Eric Swalwell is out of the California governor's race in disgrace, guess what? On the Democratic side, and listen, I love Steve Hilton. He is the leading candidate right now on the GOP side. But on the Democrat side, you got Tom Steyer, billionaire, who has spent a lot of money on this race. And then you got screaming Katie Porter. Remember this moment? This is the former congresswoman, and she's on a video, and her staffer gets in the background, and you hear her erupt. You hear the real Katie Porter.
Electrify our transportation sector, that we're going to lose more than 500,000 Californians dying prematurely to air pollution and other problems. And the state could lose. Get out of my shop.
She's screaming at her assistant who was in the background in the kitchen, get out of my shot. And that was even in the video. Can you imagine what she does when the video isn't rolling? That's called a nightmare. There is no doubt about it. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn, line 2. Go ahead, Robert.
Hi, Rita. Thanks for taking my call. Well, President Trump, he mentioned that he tried to arm the Iranians via a third party, Kurdish factions, but the arms didn't get to the Iranian citizens. It's clear you need to have regime change because you're dealing with a fanatical regime that they still don't want to back off enriching nuclear material.
So how do you, hey, Robert, hold on. How do you get the materials? And by the way, he didn't name who the third party was. I thought it was Kurds too, but we don't know that for a fact, but I assume it's the same thing you do. But how do you get them to be able to be empowered enough to rise up? And Robert, do me a favor, stick with us because we have a hard break, but I definitely want to continue with you. So stay with us, Robert, because that is a big question, because you want to squeeze them economically so they're broken. And hopefully it forces regime change and obviously the handover of nuclear materials, but you also want to empower the citizens. So how do we do all that and do it soon?
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
And so many questions tonight. Many about how to handle this blockade. And also, by the way, in New York, a lot of questions about overtime with police officers. And that is because it was officers that were on overtime that stopped a crazy guy who said he was Lucifer, who was waving a machete and stabbing people on the platform at Grand Central Station. Really scary stuff. And it comes at a time, of course, with Mondani and his socialist attitudes. He's talking about creating this government-owned grocery store. He wants the free buses. He wants to tax the rich. He's been critical of Israel, critical of the NYPD. The list goes on and on. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And, of course, President Trump talking about trying to bring them back to the bargaining table, thinking by being very tough with Iran, that may be the only language that Iran understands. And let's do cut 18. This is President Trump talking to Fox over the weekend, saying that he hasn't given up on negotiations. He's just trying to squeeze them to bring them back. Take a listen.
For years, I've had to listen to them say, death to America, right? They say, death to America, death to Israel, America, the Satan, we will destroy America, death to America. Now, does anybody ever complain to you when they say that? I think that's a big step worse. Death to America. So they're allowed to say death to America. And what I'm referring to is, when I talk about civilization, it'll be much different because their military will be totally gone. It's pretty much gone now. But their military, look at their leadership. We have had regime change because the people we dealt with yesterday were, frankly, very smart, very sharp, very good, very good. I think they were smarter than the people from before, Khomeini and that group. Because look what it got them. Look what all of their antics were spending trillions of. They spent all their money on weapons. We've destroyed most of those weapons. Mm-hmm. But when I say about a civilization, it really has changed. It really has. But think of it. They're allowed to say death to America, death to this, death to. I make one statement. They say, "Oh, such a big deal." Let me tell you, that statement got them to the bargaining table, and they haven't left. They haven't left the bargaining table. I predict they come back and they give us everything we want. And I told my people, I want everything. I don't want 90%. I don't want 95%. I told them, I want everything.
Well, and what they
have
want...
no cards, Maria.
Yep.
They have no cards. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Totally gone. Mm-hmm. They have nothing. They have no ships. 158 ships are at the bottom of the sea. Good ones, new. The Soleimani, they had one called the Soleimani, was taken out by one of our tiger sharks, by one of our rapidly moving submarines. It's amazing. Our military is so good. Do you know our military is a 94% approval rating now? Mm.
Well,
Congress has a 14%. The media has a 12%. Mm. When I started, the media had a 92% approval rating. Now they're down to 14%.
Wow.
And I'm very proud of it because they're very dishonest.
Forcing them back to the negotiating table. He says he thinks they're going to come back. Remember, this fragile ceasefire is only supposed to be a 2-week ceasefire. So there's only about a week left of it. So Iran better step up soon or else. Let's go back to Robert on line 2. Go ahead, Robert, your thoughts tonight. Hey, Robert, you there? Go ahead, Robert. Robert, I'm losing you. We'll call you back. In the meantime, I want to play this, though, before we get back to Robert. We're going to try to give him back to the table there. But in the meantime, President Trump is going after Pope Leo. And this is what President Trump, who can juggle all this? He's going after Iran, making sure that they don't have a nuclear weapon. And also, he's not happy with Pope Leo because Pope Leo seems to be siding, I don't know, a little bit, it seems like, with Iran. I mean, he hasn't been criticizing them and their nuclear development. He hasn't been criticizing them and the slaughtering of their own people, tens of thousands of them. And yet he's been critical of President Trump. Now, I'm not a big fan of the president and the Pope fighting. But here is what President Trump had to say about the American Pope, Pope Leo.
I don't think he's doing a very good job. He likes crime, I guess. He hit us. Think of it. He's worried about fear. What about the fear when the ministers and the priests and all of those great people that were arrested during COVID, and in many cases they're outside 10 feet apart, and they were arrested. So we don't like it. We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man that doesn't believe in stopping crime. He's a man that doesn't think that we should be toying with a country that wants a nuclear weapons so they can blow up the world. I'm not a fan of Pope Leo.
And then President Trump afterwards said, will you apologize for what you said against the Pope? And here's what Trump said.
Will you apologize? No, I don't, because Pope Leo said things that are wrong. He was very much against what I'm doing with regard to Iran, and you cannot have a nuclear Iran. Pope Leo would not be happy with the end result. You have hundreds of millions of people dead, and it's not going to happen. So I can't. I think he's very weak on crime and other things. So I'm not. I mean, he went public. I'm just responding to Pope Leo. And his brother is a big MAGA person, and he's a great guy, Louis. And I said I like Louis better than I like the Pope. Now, you have to have law and order in our country, and that's what we have now. We have the lowest crime numbers we've had in a long time, despite the fact that many criminals were allowed into our country. But we've gotten a lot of them out. We've done a great job on crime. So we have the lowest murder rate in 125 years, since 1900, the lowest murder rate. So we believe strongly in law and order, and he seemed to have a problem with that, so there's nothing to apologize for. He's wrong. The other thing is he didn't like what we're doing with respect to Iran.
However you feel about President Trump, you got to admire he sticks to his guns. He doesn't say, oh, that was wrong. I didn't mean that. I just said it for whatever. I didn't like that he said this. He says, and then I'm not apologizing for it, he said. I hope that they reconcile, because I like the idea of the president and the Pope getting along. But he sure does get along with the DoorDash driver. My favorite moment today, guys, and I had to share this with you. You see this DoorDash Grandma, as she's described on her shirt. It says DoorDash Grandma, and I guess she delivers DoorDash. She's a grandma, obviously, and I think she's been delivering to the White House for some time. So today she made a delivery to the White House to President Trump, and she said, I brought your favorite munchies from McDonald's. He orders, I guess, DoorDash McDonald's. And it was great. And he's like, oh, wow, this looks great. You could tell President Trump, he's such a real person. He looks at it like it's like caviar. Oh, this is great. He's so excited. The burgers, the fries, all that. He's, it's like, oh, this is awesome. Remember, he worked in McDonald's for an hour or something during the campaign. Remember, in Pennsylvania, he was at the drive-up window. So the DoorDash Grandma shows up and then starts talking to him and praising him for his no tax on tips. Listen to this great moment.
It definitely was. Yeah, I saved over $11,000 by not having to claim.
Was that surprising to you, actually?
It was very surprising. Very surprising.
A great, big, beautiful bill. And that doesn't include overtime in your case. This is only just based on what we did in terms of every other aspect of the tax bill, right?
Yes, sir.
So it was $11,000 saving.
Yes, sir.
Isn't that incredible? And that's what it is, the tax cut. It's really, we call it the great, big, beautiful bill. We should call it the great, big, beautiful tax cut bill, because it's tremendous amounts of money. And that's overtime. That's also on Social Security, as you know.
Yes.
And it's pretty amazing.
Yes, it is.
Well, you're really nice. Would you like to do a little news conference with me with these people? These are not the nicest people. They're not nice like you. You know that, right?
I'll do whatever you ask me to do, sir.
So the no tax on tips is something special, right?
It's very special.
And that's one that really pertains to you more than anything else.
Yes, sir. Yes.
It's fantastic. It's such an honor to meet you. And I think you voted for me, do you think?
Maybe.
Yeah? I heard you're a great supporter.
I love her. Maybe. She's a professional. Did you vote for me? Maybe. She doesn't want to say. But it was great. It was a great, great moment, and it just shows President Trump being so real. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Eduardo in Tampa on line 2. Go ahead, Eduardo.
Yeah, good evening, Rita. I was telling your screener that I think this Swalwell presents an opportunity
Swalwell. Is that what you mean, crazy Eric Swalwell?
Yeah. Well, we're not going to be saying that name too long. But I think this is an opportunity with all the corruption and fraud, lawlessness in these cities for us to come back for the midterms. Because, these are the people that are going to come back and take over. When you have these people in charge, I think it presents an opportunity.
I do too. I do too. Because I think it opens the door to people looking at people with values. By the way, Eduardo, this is just breaking that Kash Patel is saying that the FBI wants to sit down with Swalwell and talk with him. So they may be deeply concerned about something tied to it. It'll be interesting. Maybe it's, that flew somebody up to a state or, cross state lines. That's how it brought into federal. Or maybe there's some other allegation that we're not aware of yet. That could be big, too, as well.
Well, sure, in New York, yeah. I mean, he's from California, but there's also an investigation in New York, too, yeah.
Exactly. Right after he was at some event. But you're right. I do think it opens the door because I think people look and go, wait, this is a con artist. This party also knew probably some of the details. I think it not only smears him clearly, but I think it also smears a lot of people in the party that they turned a blind eye to it for the longest time. Yeah. And you're right. It does present an opportunity. And boy, would that be incredible if California actually turns red. Boy, that would be an interesting thing.
That'd be awesome.
That would be amazing. And that would be a great sign. Eduardo, thank you very much. Let's go to Steve in New Jersey. Line 1. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Rita. Big fan. Listen, you know what? I know you're a political person, so you can assess this the way I'm assessing it. But have you ever noticed these white males, Joe Biden, the governor of California, Swalwell, and that director that they had in Hollywood, and even Bill Cosby, when he kind of like comported himself a little conservative. Whenever they don't need them anymore, they throw them under the bus. But here's the problem for Swalwell. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, and I watched this incrementally over my 30-year career. I retired in 2009. I worked in Los Angeles for 11 years and 15 years in New Jersey. Okay, they changed the statute of limitations on these blue states, basically eliminating the statute of limitations for all these sexual antics, such as what happened with Bill Cosby, what happened with the famous director, and now what's going to happen with Swalwell. This leftist scumbag. And here's the thing, Rita. Have you noticed any white male that wants to sell himself out and commit lifetime suicide as far as their morals can get into the left and become a Democratic congressman, senator, because they need them to sell out the system, because unlike other countries in the world like South Africa, white males are still the dominant force in the United States of America, so they need them to carry the water. I wanted to get your opinion on that.
Well, you're kind of going all over the place. Now, you say you're a retired police officer, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the statute of limitations, what do you make? Let's go back to, because I'm not sure about the white, black, or any of that stuff, but let's get into this individual's accusations. Norm had a problem earlier. You probably heard earlier in the show.
Yeah, I heard. I heard.
What did you make of that? As a retired officer, what did you make of the fact that she claims this happened when she was an intern in 2019 and then another time in 2024? But she says she was blacked out. Rape means rape.
Let me break down the law so people understand the law. If it's consensual sex, it's never a violation of law. It doesn't matter about the ethical portion that Swalwell may or may not have committed as a result of being in Congress. The problem is he's being accused, as you stated, of date rape. Okay, that's what Bill Cosby was accused of. There is no statute of limitations for this stuff now. Okay, there used to be. When I started law enforcement in 1983 in Los Angeles, okay, there was statute of limitations. It was about 2 or 3 years for something like that. Now it's nothing. Now it's 40, 50 years. Okay, so they can go back, and if they can prove that Swalwell did this date rape thing, he's going to prison just like that, just like Bill Cosby did.
Yeah, you're right. It's very serious. Great points, Steve. Very, very good points. And again, I'm not even clear if it's quote date rape, because she makes it sound like on one occasion she was, talking to him with other people at a restaurant, and then the next thing she knows, she ends up in a hotel room. So I'm not even sure if she intended it to even be a date. So there's a lot of questions here. Steve, thank you. You always bring up some interesting points. You got to call back again. And I appreciate your service as an officer. Thank you very much. Everybody, we're going to continue right after the break. 1-800-848-9222. You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from California, where the Canyon Lake Patriotic Quilters honored U.S. Army veteran Court Ofstad as a recipient of a very special quilt, recognizing his dedicated military service to America. Now, in 1968, during, of course, a very pivotal time in American history, he was drafted into the U.S. Army. He received training as a radio teletype operator. After completing his training, he received orders to deploy to Vietnam. Now, by the way, RTOs, radio teletype operators in Vietnam, such as him, were responsible for carrying and operating the radio equipment used to communicate during critical military operations. And in fact, by the way, for every platoon deployed to Vietnam, there was usually just one radio teletype operator, a job assigned to the most dependable troopers. RTOs were responsible for calling in artillery and mortar rounds when seeking out the enemy. So a very important task. No wonder they were also, by the way, the prime target for the Viet Cong, as those troopers, such as veteran Ofstad, carried the weight of the world and equipment on their backs, often weighing more than 100 pounds. So his time overseas in Vietnam, by the way, totaled over 11 months, and an experience that he said shaped his life, and all spotlighted in the beautiful quilt that he recently received, honoring his powerful service and sacrifice. And of course, a welcome home to all of our great Vietnam veterans. We love you and appreciate you here on The Rita Cosby Show. And everybody, help America to never, ever forget. All you have to do to make a huge difference is donate $11 a month to the great Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Be sure to check them out. They do so much good at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to Sandra in New Jersey, line 3. Sandra, I know you want to talk about good old Eric Swalwell. Go ahead.
Well, I do. You know, I'm realizing, you know, looking at his history with sex and looking at the latest photograph on the yacht with all these women, this man has a serious sexual addiction. He can't stop. He needs help. This man needs help, like an alcoholic, like a drug abuser. He needs to get help. And think about it, Rita. Even if he was a good person and then he was running for governor, he's not a good person. We don't like him. We don't like what he stands for. He probably wouldn't do the job effectively because he's going to always have this distraction, sex and women. It seems to me he can't help himself. And that woman, that young girl that came back 4 years later.
Yep.
Look, Rita, first of all, I don't think you would want to go back to someone who assaulted you and go back and think, well, maybe I can handle him now. I'm a little more mature. I spoke to my partner. Well, look, she made a mistake. Like you say, she's young. She thought she can handle it. You can't change a monster. He's a monster. He needs help. And on that part, I don't quite get that.
Yeah, that part is confusing. But still, if what she's saying is true, it is still obviously illegal. And it would be rape, and that is something really serious. And you're right. I agree. He's got a problem, and he better get help.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Selling your car should feel like one less thing on your list, not one more. With Carvana, it is. Just go to Carvana.com, enter your license plate or VIN, and get a real offer down to the penny. No back and forth, no surprises, just an experience you can trust. Like your offer? Accept it. Schedule pickup, and we'll come to you with a check in hand. Your car, your timeline, your terms. Visit Carvana.com to sell your car today.
Carvana.
Delivery fees and terms may apply.